A stone comes out of the sky over Stirling Castle. There is a crack like splitting timber, a burst of dust, and somewhere behind the walls, a young man falls. 7 centuries later, beneath the floor of the castle chapel, archaeologists found what may be the most remarkable casualty of medieval siege warfare ever uncovered. His name is lost. He is known only as Skeleton 150, and his body was broken in more than 160 places. The question is as chilling as it is precise. Was he killed by a trebuchet? This is not a tale built on a romantic chronicle or a battlefield legend. It is a forensic mystery written into bone. And the answer, as ever with history, is strongest when we separate what is known from what is merely possible. In 1997, excavations beneath Stirling Castle's chapel uncovered several burials dating to the early 14th century. One belonged to a man probably in his early 20s, around 165 centimeters tall. For centuries, he had rested inside the fortification, beneath sacred ground. Then his injuries came into focus. Skeleton 150 had 61 fractures in his skull. There were roughly 57 broken ribs, many with an unusual zigzag pattern. His right shoulder, arms, vertebra, and right leg were also severely damaged. This was not the scattered evidence of an ordinary hard life, nor the marks of a sword fight. It was one catastrophic event. Modern analysis, including X-rays, microscopy, and micro-CT scanning, showed these were peri-mortem fractures. In plain terms, they happened when the bone still behaved like living bone around the time of death. They were not cracks caused by soil pressure, decay, or the excavation itself. And the pattern matters more than any single break. The damage appears to begin around the right shoulder and rear of the head, then drives through the chest and down the body. Researchers have compared the energy involved to severe trauma from a modern vehicle collision, even a train impact. Not because medieval warfare resembled the modern world, of course, but because extreme blunt force leaves recognizable patterns. So what could do that to one man in a castle under siege? We know Stirling was under siege in the summer of 1304. The fortress controlled a crucial crossing of the River Forth and stood at the heart of the wars of Scottish independence. Edward I of England arrived with an overwhelming army, determined to force the garrison into submission. The defenders were trapped behind walls that were meant to keep enemies out, but siege warfare had a terrible way of turning walls into targets. Edward brought siege engines. Among them, historical records and later tradition associate the operation with the most famous machine of all, Warwolf, an enormous counterweight trebuchet. A trebuchet was not simply a larger catapult. Its power came from a falling counterweight. As that immense weight dropped, it wrenched one end of a long beam downward. The other end snapped upward, and a sling released a heavy stone in a high, sweeping arc. The result could smash masonry, batter gates, and send projectiles over walls into spaces where defenders believed themselves protected. Imagine the experience inside Stirling. Rain on timber, mud underfoot, the groan of ropes pulled tight, then the sudden release. A stone does not need to strike a person directly to terrorize a garrison. It can crash through a roof, shatter a parapet, bring down debris, or make every open courtyard feel like a death trap. The purpose was not merely to break stone, it was to break resolve. And here we must be careful. What is confirmed? Skeleton 150 suffered enormous, high-energy, blunt force trauma. He was buried beneath Stirling Castle's chapel. His date and burial context fit the early 1300s. What is likely? That he was connected to the castle's defenders and died during the siege of 1304. That a large siege projectile, probably a stone, offers the best explanation for the injuries. What remains unknown? His name, his role, the exact stone, and the precise machine that launched it. Could he have fallen from the walls? Perhaps. Could masonry have collapsed onto him? It is possible. Could horses or some other accident have caused terrible injuries? Again, not impossible. But these explanations fit the evidence less well. A fall often concentrates force differently. Trampling tends to produce a different pattern. Melee weapons usually leave sharp force or penetrating injuries. Skeleton 150 instead seems to have absorbed a single, overwhelming blow from a very large object moving at high speed. That is why researchers believe this may be the earliest known archaeological case confidently linked to a trebuchet-type siege projectile. Notice the wording. Not the first person ever killed by a trebuchet. Such machines had caused death long before 1304, and not proof that Warwolf itself killed this man. No medieval source says so. No projectile was found beside him. Bone cannot identify the name painted, if any was painted, on the machine that fired the stone. Yet Warwolf remains the great historical candidate. Chronicle tradition tells us Edward insisted that his giant trebuchet be completed and fired, even when surrender was offered. If true, it was not just military practicality. It was theater. It was royal power made visible in timber, rope, iron, and stone. For the people inside Stirling, however, there was nothing theatrical about it. The chapel burial tells its own quiet story. Perhaps ordinary burial ground outside the walls was unsafe or unreachable. Perhaps this young man was brought to the nearest sacred place available, laid beneath the floor while the siege still pressed against the castle. We cannot know for certain, but his burial inside the fortress feels like one final sign of a community under extraordinary strain. Stirling eventually surrendered in late July 1304. Kings recorded campaigns. Clerks recorded supplies. Chroniclers remembered Warwolf. But beneath the chapel floor lay the evidence of one anonymous life caught in the machinery of conquest. Skeleton 150 may never give us the certainty of an eyewitness. Still, he gives us something rarer, a human trace strong enough to challenge the silence of 7 centuries. History is clearest not when it claims to know everything, but when it tells us exactly where the evidence ends. Do you think Warwolf is the likeliest weapon, or does the uncertainty make this mystery more compelling? Leave your view below and subscribe for more evidence-led stories from history's battlefields.